Okay, so let's have a look at. I want to go show you guys a quick brand, and we only have the one brand today that I want to show you. Okay, so this is one of the brands. It's called Bavic, right? And I think we all know, when it comes to, again, when it comes to kind of like, child development, and when we looked at the massive surge of STEM toys, um, and then what we're basically seeing now is starting to go back to basically the old toys, wooden toys. There's a company called Melissa and Doug's. You guys probably heard about it. If you haven't, you can get on Amazon, type in Melissa and Doug. And basically, they started a business where they were doing wooden toys on Amazon a long time ago. I think their actual business before they got into Amazon started in 1990, or no, around about 2000. And then they got on Amazon, and the only focus really was to create wooden toys for kids. But a lot of their actual toys are not really unique, right? Their wooden toys are not really unique or not really massively innovative, right? They just decided to do wooden toys. But I thought this company did something very, very special because what they basically did was create this kind of another niche on how to actually play with wooden toys and put them all together. Now, there's a company in Vietnam that actually does custom STEM toys or wooden toys, anything that you actually need. And sometimes an idea is simply just creating, a few of these products that they have a lot of demand for. So, for example, we know that wooden toys have a ton of demand, and they'll always will have a ton of demand. There are companies that if you have an idea for a wooden product, and it could be anything, they'll make it for you, right? And it's a lot easier to make or custom make a wooden toy or a wooden product that you have an idea for than it is for a stainless steel product, than it is for a plastic product. So looking at wood, now a lot of people get scared, especially coming into Australia, the fumigation certificate, customs. It's actually all very, very straightforward. So the manufacturer usually takes care of the fumigation. For example, when it comes out of Vietnam, it costs you around about $450. And when it lands in Australia, it comes the actual has already the certification there, so they can see that. So it's actually quite straightforward to actually do. You don't have to worry about that at all. But just an idea for you, for sure, is to, it could be interesting to have a look at this because I know a lot of people that I speak to, a lot of you guys especially, you actually have ideas and you don't realize the ideas that you have until we kind of start talking and start thinking about things. And sometimes those ideas that you have are actually really great, right? And sometimes you should just go with your gut with the idea that you have, as opposed to really trying to force it, and again, as long as it ticks off some boxes, the product has demands, there is differentiation there, right? And you've got a story behind it, I guess. I think if you hit those three things, you're going to kill it. And you can do it obviously another way, but I like to look at those three things. But yeah, so Wooden Toys I think is brilliant. This is a company out of Germany, I think they are. And one thing I'm mentioning also is that we're starting to find a lot more manufacturers in Europe, Germany, Poland. In Poland, for example, we found a manufacturer there a little while ago that makes dog toys. They do custom dog toys. In Italy, we found a manufacturer that does floss. This was a few years ago, dental floss. They're probably one of the biggest manufacturers of dental floss, and they had like 200 different variations of dental floss. So there's actually Europe is becoming a massively emerging manufacturing market. And while everyone's still focused on China and Vietnam is getting obviously a lot of the I guess the splashback there from China, but the European market I think is really exploding. And one thing that I was doing, I guess in Vietnam was basically building a platform to have a database of all the manufacturers in Vietnam, but not only a database, actual manufacturers that you can see and talk to where you had walk-in videos. And so that's something that I actually wanted to do here in Europe. And we have a list of a couple hundred or 300 or so manufacturers here in Portugal. And it's something that I'll probably do later on. But it just keeps on coming up. A lot of these factories from Europe And I think if you have a product, even if your product is already being made in China and you're happy with your supplier, it could be interesting to really look into whether or not it can be made in Europe, and especially if you're actually selling it in the US, because if you're selling it in the US and you make a product in Europe, the actual lead time is going to be a lot quicker because it's just around the corner, right? So, for example, we're only 6.5 hours from New York, right? So I'm in Lisbon, 20-minute drive from Lisbon, and it's a 6.5 hour flight to New York, right? So, in terms of your lead time, if we get a product made in Portugal and we ship it into the US, it's going to be there way quicker, right? It's going to be a lot cheaper. And also the cost per unit, and I've mentioned it before, I'm finding is actually cheaper than what it is in China. If you look at the average, basically the average pay salary in China, it's actually around about $1,200 a month now, right? That's actually a lot. It's gone up the last 3 or 4 years. But if you look at Europe, there it's around about 800 euro. It's around about the same, right? Actually, it's a lot less, right? So it's probably about 10 or 20% less than what someone earns in China on average. It's crazy, right? It's absolutely crazy. And this is why Europe, I guess, is cheap, but also there because the cost of labor is cheap here, the products are actually really cheap, right? So I've had the opportunity to go to a few factories now, and their condition is amazing. The way they actually, do things is quite incredible. So again, I think Europe is going to be a massive, massive player when it comes to manufacturing for sure.